The night is quiet, but the drama, oh darling, it's never been louder. You may have forgotten all about your favorite nighttime soaps, but Miss Kane, she never did. She's been watching all the affairs, the betrayals, and the big hair, and now she's here to tell you everything you missed, or perhaps just forgot. This is Drama After Dark. Slip into something comfortable, and let's catch you up.
Don't just watch the scandal, darling. Subscribe and join the drama every Friday.
Breakfast at Southfork, darling, starts with Miss Ellie catching little Lucy trying to get by on nothing but a measly cup of coffee. Oh, but Ellie, she shuts that down quick, telling her she needs a real breakfast, not some cafeteria junk. Lucy, bless her heart, says she's gained a few pounds. Ellie, she blames the school candy machine. And Lucy, with a little sass, fires back that it's actually Teresa's mashed potatoes doing all the heavy lifting. Now, Sue Ellen's at the table, reading a letter from her mother. And honey, you can just feel the whole room tense right up. Jock, bless his memory, can't remember where her mother lives. So Sue Ellen, ever so politely, reminds him it's Boca Raton. Then, she just slips it in, casual as can be, that her mother's talking about visiting and maybe even bringing her sister. Oh, Lord. JR, well, he reacts like someone just ruined his entire week, saying she better not invite her mother to stay at the ranch, because he can only take so much, bless his heart. Sue Ellen, cool as a cucumber, just lets him know her mother isn't easily pushed aside. Oh no. JR heads out, Bobby follows, and the house settles. But out by the Southfork gate, somebody is parked, just quietly clocking the exact moment JR leaves for the day. Cut to a cramped little hideout, where a trio of troublemakers is studying the Ewing family like it's a final exam. Al is running point, laying it out one more time. The ranch house belongs to Jock Ewing. His wife is Miss Ellie. Will still thinks the smart move is grabbing the old man, but Al shuts that down. Jock is way too hard to get near. Then Al turns the page and lands on their real target. J.R. Ewing, president of Ewing Oil, net worth a clean $100 million, driving that Mercedes with the Ewing 3 plate. He goes right down the list. Bobby's car, Pam's car, Sue Ellen, and finally Lucy, who's at school all day. Will says he'd like to kidnap her himself, and Al keeps it moving. They study Ray, the ranch foreman, the office garage, the whole setup. Will tries to pitch grabbing JR right there, but Al says it's too risky, with too many people coming and going. Will complains that JR is always bouncing between his women and his business, and Faye finally cuts in, telling them both to stop acting like JR is gonna walk up and volunteer to be kidnapped. Will brings up how they grabbed Gilhooly and Rachelson, but Faye reminds him JR doesn't run wild like that. Al warns there'll be no more killings. Faye agrees, as long as everyone stays cool. Will leans back and says the name J.R. Ewing just sounds like money. Oh, Bobby's morning just blows up so fast, darling. One of his contractors swears the mill sent exactly what he ordered, and Bobby, well, he is simply not having it. Frank says he and Lou checked the specs 100 times, and whoever processed that order must have been half asleep. So, Bobby, bless his heart, decides he'll drive out to the site himself, tells Frank to call Lou, and makes it crystal clear they are never ever using that firm again. Across town, JR is oh so busy balancing his schedule with one of his lady friends before a business meeting. She complains she barely sees him, and he hits her with that classic line about being overworked. He figures really Joe can wait a few more minutes. JR always makes time for whatever suits him, doesn't he? Back at Ewing Oil, Bobby rushes in with a flat tire, asking if JR is around. The secretary says he's still tied up at a hotel meeting but due back, because his 2:30 is already waiting. Bobby asks for the spare key to JR's car, calls Johnny to fix his tire, and says he'll head home from the site. JR can take Bobby's car, as long as he puts gas in it. Outside, the trio of kidnappers is watching the garage. The moment JR's car rolls out, one of them leans forward, eyes sharp, and tells the others to move. Well, darlings, their plan just kicked right into gear. Bobby's driving out to the site, minding his business. when he notices a car hugging his bumper a little too closely. And these three fools inside, they're confused because JR has apparently taken a brand new route today. Except it's not JR at all. It's Bobby. Al is irritated, saying JR never comes this way. And Faye cracks that he's probably off charming some poor widow sitting on an oil well she doesn't know how to manage. Bobby finally glances back and mutters, "What the hell?" And that's all the invitation they need. They cut him off, jump out, and surround his car. Al realizes immediately this is the wrong Ewing. Bobby thinks it's a robbery, offering the couple $100 he has on him, and Will laughs in his face, saying he's worth millions. Faye tells them the goose may be wrong, but he can still lay a golden egg. They drag Bobby out, blindfold him, shove him into their car, and take him to a rundown hideout. When he tries to stay calm and says they don't need to chain him, they ignore him and lock him in anyway, just to be sure. Faye goes through his wallet, while Bobby tries to ask what they want. She tells him it's simple, whatever happens next depends on his family, and she hopes they like him a whole lot. JR finally strolls into Ewing Oil, and the secretaries immediately brief him. Bobby still hasn't shown up at the site, even though Johnny already fixed the flat on his car. JR barely reacts, joking that his car doesn't take kindly to strangers driving her, and calls Luella into his office like it's just another Tuesday. Meanwhile, at the hideout, Bobby tries to steady himself and calls Al out directly, asking if he's trying to kill him. Faye comes in announcing Will is back, and Al warns Bobby to keep his mouth shut if he wants to stay alive. They set up the camera and start talking ransom notes. Al questions using Cliff Barnes, but Faye insists they've always used the go-between, and Cliff will do what he's told. Back in town, Cliff gets a call from a man who won't give his name. Al tells him not to talk, just listen. They've got Bobby Ewing. He's alive, and he'll stay that way if everyone follows instructions. Cliff tries to confirm it's real, and Al tells him where to start. The first directions are buried under the telephone pole across from the Southfork entrance. No cops, no feds, no slip-ups. The family's having before-dinner drinks, just waiting on Bobby. Lucy's talking about maybe going to school in New England. And Jock? Oh, he shuts it down fast, saying Texas schools are just fine. Then, Pan comes in, worried. Bobby's car is in the driveway, but she can't find him anywhere. JR says he brought the car home 'cause Bobby took his, then adds Bobby never even showed up at the construction site. Pam hears that tone, and she calls him on it. The phone rings. Miss Ellie answers while Sue Ellen opens the door, and Cliff just walks right in. He says he needs to speak to Jock, and JR immediately jumps him. Miss Ellie adds that Bobby's builder just called. JR's car was found abandoned. Cliff finally says it. Bobby's been kidnapped. JR accuses him of lying, but Cliff hands over the ransom note dug up across from the Southfork entrance. The kidnappers meant to take JR, but they got Bobby instead. They want $1.5 million by noon tomorrow. No cops, and Cliff is the go-between. Pam demands they follow the instructions. JR wants to handle it himself, but Cliff refuses to gamble with Bobby's life. Miss Ellie backs Pam, and Jock agrees they'll do exactly as the note says. Cliff tells JR they're stuck together. JR hates it, arguing Cliff could get Bobby killed. Jock snaps back that none of this sits right, but he still lets JR take the lead. At the bank, the men are gathered around stacks of cash as the banker finishes counting. Cliff walks in, irritated, saying he leaves them alone for 5 minutes, and they've already called the FBI. JR fires back that just because they have to use Cliff as the go-between doesn't mean he's running anything. This is a family matter, and he and Jock are making the decisions. Cliff asks if Jock really agreed to that. JR says yes, and makes it clear Pam has no say here. They want Bobby home safe, and the FBI knows kidnapping's better than Cliff ever will. Cliff warns him not to get creative. The safest thing is to follow instructions exactly. The banker hates handing over unmarked cash, but JR reminds him kidnappers keep the clock tight for a reason. When JR goes to take the money, Cliff stops him, saying Mahoney should carry it because he's the chauffeur. Even the banker agrees. JR swallows it, thanks the banker for moving fast, and heads out. Back at Southfork, Pam is with the FBI. Pacing, she asks why the kidnappers haven't called yet, why they're dragging this out. The agent tells her it's intentional. They want the family scared, off balance, and desperate before they make their next move.
The drama sparkles best when you're part of it. Subscribe and stay close, like a whispered secret. Leave a comment, tell us what has you gasping, because every scandal deserves an audience.
Back at Southfork, JR pulls Ray aside and says they're putting their issues on hold until Bobby's safe. He tells Ray to gather a few ranch hands, keep them alert, and make sure they're good shots. Ray teases him about parting with all that money, but JR says he just wants Bobby home. Cliff comes in for his briefcase and runs into Sue Ellen. He asks how she's feeling, she asks if there's any news, and JR cuts in, saying she doesn't need to be polite to everyone. The phone rings. Jock answers, false alarm. Miss Ellie goes to the kitchen to stay busy, then Pam picks up the next call. A man says he has Bobby. She begs to talk to him, but he demands Cliff. Cliff takes the phone, and the caller accuses him of bringing the FBI. Cliff denies it, but the man says to check the flower boxes at Regular John's for proof, and the next instructions. No feds, or Bobby dies. Cliff hangs up and asks the FBI about a trace. No time. They're being watched. Cliff says the kidnappers want him alone. Jock agrees and sends the agents away. Cliff tells the family they'll follow the instructions exactly. Jock backs him, and Pam pleads with both men not to let anything happen to Bobby. Well, Cliff comes back to Southfork, looking utterly exhausted and, would you believe it, empty-handed. And Pam, bless her heart, meets him at the door, just dying to know what in the world happened. Cliff just says, nothing, darling. That the last stop was a dead end. All he found were those photos and Bobby's wallet. Pam, naturally, just panics, asking where Bobby is, and Cliff admits he doesn't know. Then, he hands her a note. Pam reads it, and oh, it's from Bobby, saying he's all right. JR, bless his cotton socks, immediately snaps that he's done with Cliff's way of handling things. From now on, he gives the orders. And Cliff, well, he says that's just fine. He never wanted to be involved and is glad to be off the hook. Pam jumps in, saying none of this is Cliff's fault. But JR fires back that Bobby's not here, so it is someone's fault. And if JR hadn't called the FBI, Bobby would be home already. Miss Ellie, bless her heart, shuts that down, saying there's no point blaming anyone. Pam tells JR if anything happens to Bobby, he's the one to blame. Miss Ellie tries to soften it, reminding her JR wants Bobby home as much as anyone. Pam, though, isn't convinced. Jock steps in, saying Pam doesn't understand the Ewings yet. None of them would let harm come to another without fighting to stop it. Pam pushes back. If that's true, then Cliff has to stay. He's Bobby's only chance now. Jock thinks on it, then agrees. They don't have a choice. Back at the hideout, the kidnappers are cracking. Will keeps asking why they didn't just grab the money and run, and Faye reminds him Cliff had the cash. Al snaps that he couldn't be sure Cliff came alone. For all he knew, the FBI was right behind him. They could have been gone by now. Faye throws it back at him, saying, ever since you shot Gilhooly, you haven't had the nerve for anything. Al pushes past it, saying they'll call again tomorrow with a new drop time. The Ewings are scared enough to do whatever they tell them. Faye worries they were followed. Al insists he wasn't. Will's done pretending. He wants to kill Bobby and get out of Texas. Head somewhere like Wyoming where nobody will look for them. Al tells him to calm down. But Will keeps ranting he never wanted to come to Texas anyway. Al says they've gotten away with this in plenty of states. But Will doesn't care. He wants to dump Bobby and run. Al shuts him down. No more killing. Will argues they can't just let Bobby walk. Faye adds nobody will ever believe them again if they back off. Will points out how fast the Ewings paid after Gilhooly. Something clatters. Al panics and grabs a chair, yelling, no killing. They chain Bobby again. Will warns him straight. They're split on whether he lives or dies, and one wrong move makes the vote unanimous. Back at Southfork, JR tells the family the FBI has ID'd the kidnappers. The very same crew, darling, behind kidnappings in Vermont, Montana, New Mexico, and California. Almost everyone, mind you, was released unharmed. Pam, bless her heart, here's the almost. JR explains Rob Gilhooly died after a fake payoff made him panic and run. Jock says their money is real, and nothing, not a blessed thing, will happen to Bobby. Cliff adds they'll demand proof he's alive and push for a quick exchange. But everything else, darling, must follow the kidnapper's rules. At the hideout, Faye is alone with Bobby. He asks where Al and Will went, and she says they're planting the next instructions. She tells him they'll wait until the Ewings are good and scared. Bobby says they were scared from the start. She reminds him he shouldn't have tried to escape. He says he thought they were going to kill him. Faye claims they don't kill unless they have to. Bobby brings up Gilhooly. That hits a nerve. And then she softens, tries to lean in close, testing if Bobby might be persuaded another way. Bobby shuts it down, offering her money instead if she lets him go. Faye pulls back, laughs, and says she's not abandoning Al and Will. Bobby tells her she's showing him exactly who she is. She snaps at him just as Will calls from outside. Faye straightens up and rushes out. The phone rings again. Oh, for goodness sake. Al asks for Cliff and wants to know if the FBI is gone. Cliff says yes, and Al warns him, this time, you'd better follow every single instruction. Cliff pushes back. He wants to talk to Bobby. Al shuts it down, but insists Bobby's alive. Cliff presses for proof, reminding him they want $1.5 million. Al snaps that he doesn't have to be reasonable. He's the one holding Bobby Ewing. Cliff asks for the plan. Al tells him to continue yesterday's trail. Cliff refuses and says he wants a meeting. He wants to see Bobby alive, and then he'll hand over the money. Al accuses him of setting up a trap, but Cliff reminds him they kept their word last time because he was alone, and no one wants Bobby's life risked. Al finally relents. He tells Cliff to go to the power substation on the way to Denton, take the gravel road just south of it, and wait. Dawn. Cliff hangs up and tells the family, power station outside Denton. Sunrise. Sue Ellen asks where JR is going. JR pulls on his jacket and says he's frying meat here, headed somewhere he can actually make himself useful. At the hideout, the trio's locking in their plan. Faye asks if everything's set. Al says, yes, it'll be an even exchange at dawn. Power substation near Denton. Will thinks he's lost his mind. Al says it's an open field and no one can ambush them. Faye calls Bobby in, uneasy. Al says the Ewings weren't buying their runaround anymore. He asks Bobby what he thinks. Bobby tells them his family would never risk his life. If he's with them, they're safe. Faye agrees. Al accuses him of lying. Bobby says if Faye and Will cover him, Al can get the money, and they can use him as a shield. No cops until they're gone. Will warns one wrong move, and Bobby dies. Bobby stays calm and says it'll go exactly as they want. Across town, Jock gathers the ranch hands. He wants them at the site by midnight, spread out and quiet. JR tells them no one moves until he gives the word. He wants Bobby safe, the money back, and the kidnappers caught. Jock warns Ray and JR to avoid unnecessary risks. They agree, and Jock heads back before anyone notices they're missing. Just before dawn, Pam checks on Cliff. Neither slept, bless their hearts. She admits she's terrified and asks if he likes Bobby now. Cliff, well, he says he does. Then Jock steps in. Oh, it's time, darling. Miss Ellie tells Cliff to bring her boy home safe. At the drop, Al calls for Cliff. Cliff, bless his soul, demands to see Bobby first. Al brings him out alive, then orders the bag opened. Cliff shows the money. Al checks it and tells Cliff to walk while Bobby stays back as a separate target. Ray signals from the dark that Bobby's clear, and then, oh honey, gunfire explodes. The ranch hands take down Al and Will. Faye screams for Will, the poor dear. Ray reaches Bobby, Cliff right behind him. Cliff, bless his heart, snaps that JR almost got them killed. Bobby pushes him back, telling him to cool it. JR steps in, claiming the shooters are crack shots and neither man was in danger. Cliff fires back that JR nearly killed his own brother trying to get rid of a Barnes. JR denies it, of course. Bobby ends it, saying he just wants to go home. At Southfork, Pam tells Bobby she's never been so scared. He says he'll be worried too. She says he'll be lucky if she ever lets him out of her sight. JR strolls up, and when Pam notes Cliff was nearly killed, JR shrugs, says with him there, Cliff's never been safer. Oh, that JR. First off, to everybody who's already subscribed, baby, thank you. You're the reason this drama keeps pouring. I see you liking, commenting, sipping right along with me, and I love you for it. Now for the rest of y'all just watching from the sidelines, what's the holdup? We're sitting at 29 subscribers, more than halfway to 50, and I want you in this family. Go on, hit that button. Let's make it official before JR stirs up the next mess. You bring the shade, I'll bring the bourbon. Deal?
Well, wasn't that deliciously messy? Miss Kane walked you through the drama, and trust me, the secrets are just starting to spill. But don't think it's over, darling. There's always another scandal waiting in the shadows. This has been Drama After Dark. Until next time, we'll be watching. Will you?